Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a very good last week and a half in the market, and people are saying, well, this is the reason why everything opened up significantly on Monday. Tesla now rebounding. It's a little bit of a different story with Tesla and the shock crash that it experienced the past few weeks, and now it's rebounded like 30-40%. But Trump possibly, you can see, hinting at being nicer to some of these countries when it comes to the reciprocal tariffs. We know that April 2nd is the golden date for a little bit of a shakeup potentially if there are the reciprocal tariffs, which Trump originally pledged on any country that is tariffing the United States. It would be the United States tariffing the country back the exact same way. And we did expect a serious shakeup in terms of the stock market. People say, well, it's already built in. They're already anticipating it. That's not how it's worked right now, at least when it comes to the Trump presidency. Whenever there are tariffs, the market the next day always opens down. But now people are saying, well, with this recent update from Trump, the exact quote, I may give a lot of countries breaks, but it's reciprocal. But we might be even nicer than that. You know, we've been very nice to a lot of countries for a long time, but I call it Liberation Day. April 2nd is Liberation Day. Trump possibly hinting at a major announcement in terms of cutting taxes in the United States. We know they made a point. Ludnick and others have said it's 150K and below. None of that's going to be taxed. So Trump's maybe saying, well, yeah, we're going to use the tariffs to supplement that. And if you look at the overall tax on money that's under 150K, it's such a small percentage of U.S. revenue. You could potentially do it if you can offset the loss in revenue on those taxes through the tariffs on other countries. If Trump really wants to go forward, we know the Venezuelan tariffs were announced yesterday at 25% that are going to be happening on April 2nd. But we're wondering, you can see the recent updates. The Russell is up. The Wilshire is up. Also, you've got the S&P 500. This is just the past day. Obviously, yesterday it was up significantly, but the past week you've got Tesla rebounding 24%. Everything is up in the S&P as well. So it's been like really a week and a half, 2 weeks of pretty good stock action, decent crypto recovery. And so people are wondering, well, is it because of the tariff situation? Is it calming down? When it comes to the tariffs, I still think the most important situation is Canada, because Mexico and Sheinbaum, they've said that, or at least Trump has said they've been very cooperative, but I've stopped trying to predict what Trump wants to do when it comes to these tariffs because there's no point. I'm not even sure Trump knows exactly what he wants to do with the tariff situation, because you could say, well, if Trump does want to stick to his guns on the tariffs, we can certainly understand why, and that can be a positive because it will kickstart domestic production. There's always a give and a take. You're going to have higher prices short term, absolutely, but it will give the United States more high quality, higher paying jobs. And that's really the key thing with the jobs. They bring out the jobs report. Remember when they would report on the jobs for Biden, they would lie and then they would correct it 3 months later and say, well, it wasn't this many jobs, and they would all be part-time jobs. And then they realized when they did investigations into it that it was really people getting second and third jobs because the Biden inflation was so bad. And that's really the key thing with this economy. Let's just see what Trump does with inflation, because inflation came in lower than it was expected 2 weeks ago when the report came out, the February report. When the March report comes out on the 10th, if it's down again, I mean, the problem with the interest rates is I don't think they're going to be lowered on May 9th either. I think they're going to stay the same again. It's like we need to see sustained lower inflation. So hopefully they come in down again. But you've also got the whole thing with people saying, oh, it's going to be a recession. The Atlanta Fed is predicting minus 2% GDP growth. And now it's like being revised. It's actually plus 2%. It's not going to even be a quarter of negative GDP growth. But like we can swing it either way, whether there is a recession or not. There are positives to that if it's a short-term thing. I'm not saying it'd be good, and I don't want a recession, but it's a definitional thing with just 2 quarters of negative GDP growth. People think it's this big scary thing. There was a recession under Biden, and they tried changing the Merriam-Webster dictionary and said, well, no, it's more of an opinionated thing. It's not 2 quarters of negative GDP growth, because Biden had like -2 and then -0.6 back-to-back quarters negative GDP growth. And they're like, well, no, it's an interpretation based on what we think the economy is over a certain amount of months. Well, they tried changing it. It doesn't matter whether there's a recession or not. I think there's going to be. There might not even be a single negative quarter in terms of GDP growth under Trump if this is as low as it's going to go. This is what we've been saying with Trump. if his approval rating is 50% or 49% or 48%, really it's irrelevant. I don't care about it. As long as it's not like 30% or 40%, then it's a problem. It's like 47, 48, 49. This is the composite average with Real Clear Politics or with 538, whatever you want to take. They say, oh, it's -2, -3. It's really bad for being this early in his presidency. No, they don't grade Trump. The American people, and this mainly revolves around how crazy liberals are with their obsession with Trump and how much they hate him. And many liberals have made it known. Yes, they want Trump dead. They say it all the time on TikTok. That's their party's viewpoint. They're just really horrible people, and that's why it's very sad what's happened to their party, and their party cannot win because these are unstable people. And remember, they said they wanted World War III. They said it's important for Ukraine. Trump's not going to give it to them. But these people are crazy. But they never give Trump the benefit of the doubt. He comes into office in 2017. He immediately starts with a negative approval rating. Okay, he comes into office this year. He wins everything. He wins all the swing states, and they immediately shoot his approval rating down to where it is right now. Even there's really no period for Trump. Remember, Biden got like a year where he had like a +18 approval rating. He's sitting there like, oh, he can barely talk. He got like a year of positive approval rating, and then he had the Afghanistan disaster where his generals suggested to him, and they said, we need to leave troops behind. This is going to be a total mess if you pull everyone out at the same time. And then Biden's like, no, it's a 50-50 proposition. We're going to pull everyone out. And then they tried to swing it like it's this great thing, what Biden did, because they said, well, Trump was going to do it. Well, yeah, Trump was going to do it. He was planning to do it in his second term. Trump was taking a professional approach and listening to his generals. It's a slow retreat while you leave a certain number, like 20,000 troops, 10,000 troops, whatever it was there, to allow for it to happen. But you can't just take everyone out at the same time. So that's why it was a total mess at the airport, and it became a horrible thing for Biden. That's when his approval rating really suffered. That's not important when it comes to this, though. The moral of it is, if Trump's approval rating is 50% right now, this is a low end of Trump, because you have the tariffs, you have uncertainty, you have the war still going on. Trump's trying to end it. There's going to be a minerals deal, maybe with Ukraine, maybe with Russia and the Donbass. And then, the Israel-Palestine situation, that has to be solved. It has to be solved. So what do you want to do? You want to do the two-state solution? Well, then it's just going to kick up again in 2 years. You want to do that? There's no right answer to that. Trump is trying to solve it. Trump said, Trump had to kickstart negotiations. So he said, you know what? We're just going to have to evacuate these people out of the Gaza Strip because there's nothing left. And it's important that these people are safe, the Palestinians. So we're going to make sure they're safe, and it's going to be very good. And then Trump said, yeah, we're going to annex the area. We're going to invest into it. That was a negotiation tactic. And that's why all the Arab countries came and said, no, we're going to invest. We have a $53 billion proposal to invest into the Gaza Strip. That's why the Arab countries and the Arab states are going to be investing into the Gaza Strip and not the United States. That was just a Kickstarter by Trump. Trump is trying to end these wars. They're very complicated. It's not like a simple thing. You've got Russia angling for land. You've got Ukraine trying to, now Zelensky's throwing everything at the wall saying, oh, you've got to protect us. We're going to continue fighting. So there's a lot going on. And that's with the stock market doing well in this period because of these tariffs. So Trump originally had said, there's going to be huge tariffs. Everyone that's tariffing us, it's reciprocal on April 2nd. Now he's backing off of that a little bit. Now we'll see what happens with Canada. We'll see what happens with Mexico. Do the Mexican tariffs get postponed because about 60% of the imports coming in from Mexico are not facing tariffs right now because they're protected under that North American U.S., Mexico, Canada trade agreement that's going to be renegotiated possibly this year. But I think the Canadians are waiting to renegotiate that until after their election in late April. And then they might renegotiate it to try and have the tariffs end. And that would probably be a conservative in Canada that would have the majority power there if they do go conservative in their election, which I think they probably will. And then maybe we could get a resolution on the tariff situation. But it just depends if Trump wants to commit to these tariffs. It would be a long-term plan. It's a lot easier to commit to tariffs against China than it is against Canada and Mexico. So, and because Trump committed and Biden held up the tariffs, they continued under Biden, and now Trump put in even more tariffs against China because they've been so successful. But it is, again, it's different when you're talking about China versus Canada and Mexico because of how much we trade with both Mexico and Canada, and also just in terms of how easy the trade is based on the geographic location. So that's all important to understand. But this stock market, this is a rebound. This is good. And people are like, well, it's because of the tariffs. Well, I mean, we were due for a rebound anyways. I mean, we had several horrible Mondays after tariffs were announced. The first one was like early February, and then we had another really bad one in early March. And then this recent Monday, we opened up significantly in crypto and in the stocks, and all the metrics look decent. But the really important stuff, the interest rates, we need them to come down. The inflation is extremely important. We know that. And inflation has it being lower than expected was a big win for Trump, for sure, when the inflation report for February was lower. And so we'll have to see where it is in March. But what I can say is it looks like Trump, it's very unpredictable what he wants to do with tariffs. You cannot predict it. We just don't know what he's going to do. But there could be less tariffs than expected, which could be good for the market and this is all very short term. That's the thing. It's like people think these tariffs are this horrible thing. In the way I'm presenting tariffs, I'm basically presenting them as very bad because I say, well, if the tariffs come into place and Trump tariffs everyone, the market's going to tank because there's uncertainty. But it's a long-term solution with a short-term problem. That's what it is. It makes the United States more self-sufficient, and it also could generate revenue for the United States. I mean, I think Trump might try and offset if he does decide to. I'm just wondering if Trump announces his huge, grand tax plan, no taxes under 150K, or no taxes under 75K, which is what some other people have suggested to make it easier in terms of you're not going to deal with a significant lack of revenue. The problem with these plans are when you're this much in debt and you have this big of a deficit, we'll see if Doge and Elon can cut into that. Some people see the other thing is so much of this stuff is disputed. Musk claims that Doge has saved $115 billion in cutting government waste and cutting U.S. aid. But other people say, well, no, a lot of those contracts are misrepresented and it's really not 115 billion. It's more like 15 billion. So it's hard to really say. We really have to sort all this stuff out and get the facts correct. But they're trying to get rid of the deficit. You're gonna have to look at the entitlements, and it's a sore subject. But that's why Musk has talked about the entitlements and Social Security so much, because it has to be looked at. And eventually, Social Security it's in a sense it's gonna run out, or it's gonna get cut down to like 83% in 2034. To where they'll only be able to play out 83% out of the 100% that people would be supposedly owed. But Social Security is not necessarily an entitlement; it's a tax. It's a 6% tax, and people think they're like, it's their money, but no, it's a tax. It's just like you pay federal tax; you don't get that money back. But I mean, listen, if you want to give people the money instead of keeping the 6%, then there's no safety net for them after they retire. But the money probably should have been invested. Because look at where we're at now with it. We're running out of the money. There's not enough workers to cover for the amount of old people, because the living situation with people getting older, they can live longer now. Life expectancy. I don't know why I didn't just say life expectancy, but that's what it is. But listen, these numbers are really good. And you could say, well, it's because Trump is backing off of the tariffs. There's not going to be that bad of tariffs. You want to talk about April Fools. Well, April 2nd, Trump said he wasn't going to do April Fools. The tariffs weren't going to happen on April 1st. Trump is going to say on April 1st, we're hitting Canada with a 1,000% tariff, and then he'll say April Fools. Nah. We get a good April Fools joke from Trump. It's going to tank the stock market. But yeah, I would say, listen, we can't predict what Trump is going to do with these tariffs. We hope that it's a situation to where either way, no matter what he does, I'm going to be able to argue it as a positive, because long-term tariffs will help. Short-term, if the tariffs are not put into place, it will help the stock market. So it just depends which one is it going to be. And so we'll have to see. And also the other thing is there's also negotiations that are going to be going on with a lot of these countries. What I mean by that is all of these countries that have tariffs on the United States, if the United States even threatens to tariff them, they might say, okay, we're going to back off with our tariffs, or we're going to cut them in half, things like that, to where we can swing it for Trump. Because Trump could just threaten, and then they could say, well, we're going to take it back. Look at what Canada's doing. They've already said we want to renegotiate the trade deal with you guys. What does that mean? Well, that means that Canada is capitulating in terms of the tariffs that they have on the U.S. in terms of dairy. Remember, that's what Trump always says about 250% tariffs on dairy to try and protect their own farmers. Otherwise, we would just flood their markets. They're going to have to lower it. So when Trump does the renegotiation, that's how it's going to be pitched, because we're going to get lower and better deals on lumber, more access to rare earths in Canada, possibly in northern Canada in those territories, more mining opportunities. And we're also going to get the tariffs that Canada has imposed on dairy to be chopped, maybe eliminated completely if we renegotiate with Canada, because Trump is squeezing the Canadians with all of these tariffs. But if he keeps the tariffs on and you keep the pressure on and the liberal wins, then you've got an even better situation to where there's provinces within Canada that are going to be very angry with the situation, with their government and how liberal it is. And that's when you start talking about the Alberta and Saskatchewan joining the United States. But Trump hasn't even talked about that. He just says, well, I want all of Canada to be part of the United States. And then people are like, well, it's a joke. But he said it now a lot. And so I think he needs his advisors to go to him and say, look, this is not a good idea. It would not go over well. We have a plan to take Western Canada and then buy the 3 territories. This is a better situation. We do not want Quebec or Ontario or Nova Scotia or New Brunswick. We don't want any of those provinces. They're very liberal. I mean, some of those provinces are comparable to like Connecticut. So it just doesn't make sense. And I mean, this is a good stock market. We'll see if this continues. This is turmoil. Like I said, there's going to be turmoil. You get the interest rates down, you get the inflation down, and then you see the boom. And now we've got the total number of foreign investment into the United States sitting around $3 trillion. It's $2.94 trillion total investment into the United States via Saudi Arabia, via United Arab Emirates, via Taiwanese semiconductor manufacturing company. There's so much investment now into the U.S. Trump has kickstarted it with the loosening of regulations. And I mean, you want to talk about just a clear upgrade the United States got going from Biden to Trump. They praised Biden for the CHIPS Act, which is this bipartisan thing, which I agreed with. Yeah, we do need to domestically manufacture semiconductor chips because of the influence China has over Taiwan. We cannot rely on Taiwan. But there was no actual investment. They committed to investing into domestically producing semiconductor chips, but there was no investment because there was no incentive, because it's easier and cheaper to produce the chips in Taiwan. Trump said, we're going to tariff you 25%. Taiwan said, we will invest up to $170 billion to produce chips in the United States. And this is amazing. We have to get this done. This has to get done because of the Chinese and their soft power they're exuding, and they say that Taiwan it's a runaway country, and they really need. I mean, they say it's Chinese Taipei, and it's a part of China, and we don't know what's going to happen with that. We just hope nothing happens under Trump, because it's a bad situation. It's really a lose-lose for Trump if something happens to where there is a very aggressive move made by China. But I've listened to military experts, and they say, well, that's going to happen in the 2030s. Trump doesn't have to worry about that. So let's hope that's the case, because, again, you want to talk about a no-win situation. If China really starts to do something to Taiwan, I mean, Taiwan has built themselves up. They have an impressive economy, and China obviously wants a piece of it, but it's a really, really convoluted situation. So this is good news. This market is looking positive. You could say, well, it's because Trump is he's being more, maybe a little less aggressive when it comes to the reciprocal tariffs that are going to be going into place on April 2nd. I've said April 2nd is a big day. We'll see what Trump ends up doing, but maybe it is less tariffs, or maybe it is just talking to these countries and negotiations to get the tariffs down in some of these countries. And that's what might end up happening, because we see that play out in Canada in real time. The Canadians are saying, please, can we renegotiate? I think they're probably thinking, we're going to bring down the dairy tariffs and other things because we don't want to be hit with tariffs by you guys for the foreseeable future. We can't deal with it. We want to trade with you. And I think deep down, Trump wants to have a good relationship with Canada. He wants to help these people out. He's a very good person. He is. He's a really, really nice guy. And J.D. Vance is very nice. These are very nice people. And they want to help Canada out, but they know they have to help the citizens of the United States first. The citizens of the U.S. must be put first. And, I want to have trade with Canada. I think we have a good trade deal with Canada. I do. And they've got great lumber. They've got good wood. They've got better wood than the United States does. We don't want to have to chop down all of our forests. We can get wood from Alaska, though. But no, the really quality, like the people say, the very quality lumber, the good lumber that's used for houses, it comes from Canada. We want to still have a trade relationship. Trump still wants to have a trade relationship with Canada. He does. But this is just the hard nose aspect of the job to get a better trade deal because we have to protect Canada. We have to. It's North America. We have to protect Canada if anyone invades them. So we need to have a better trade deal to be able to compensate for. We have to think about. You look at it. It's like total people per square mile. It's the lowest you'll ever see in Canada. Now they're like going through a crisis. The liberals there are saying, well, we actually have to import more Indians into the country. They've already destroyed Toronto. They're saying we need to double the Canadian population because there's no people per square mile. There's so much empty land in Canada, so it's so easy to invade. The only thing stopping it is the people invading is the United States. And also, it's the 21st century. You're not going to invade a country like Canada, and let's be honest, because it wouldn't go well, because then you've got the United States involved. But that's the point. We have to protect Canada, so where's our return? And it's not in writing, but it's just like the Fallout scenario. Well, if World War III happens, Canada would be like, yes, please annex me. It's the same thing with Greenland. It's the same thing with Greenland. These countries have to understand, and the Greenland situation is even more like, you have to get, if you want to do this, and if we want to make Trump seem like the good guy, you have got to get the Greenland citizens, at least 40 to 50% of them, on board with a U.S. annexation, and they become a territory, and they do govern themselves. That's totally fine. But you have to get them on board, and you can get them on. You definitely can get them on board, but it has to be done through an economic deal with Greenland and their government. And that would make Trump. There's no way you could criticize that if the people want it to happen. So that's what I was thinking about Greenland. It's like you have, because otherwise, if you're talking about a military exercise, we're going to have to sit here and defend this. People are going to be very angry. But, this is like, you can't do this anymore, unfortunately. Because people just get angry about these exercises. So you just have to do it diplomatically. And I would defend it, but, it'd be annoying. So you get the citizens on board first. So that's basically it. I would say these tariffs, it's looking like Trump is reeling them back. Some of them might go into place. There are, in other situations, there might be negotiations with the countries that have tariffs against the United States, to where it's like, well, you tariff us, we tariff you. Why are we tariffing each other? So let's just both take them off. And that was maybe the grand plan for Trump when it came to some of these tariffs on April 2nd, they were saying, to get rid of all the tariffs. But obviously, it's a different situation with Canada, Mexico, and China. And now Venezuela as well, and some other countries. But there's also the idea of 25% tariff against the EU, which we know Trump's relationship with the EU right now is it's a little bit rocky. But either way, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.